I've written my letter to Daddy. His address is heaven above. I've written my letter to Daddy, saying I love you. What's up, everybody? This is your boy Kenny, and this is gonna be my review for Feud, Bette and Joan. This is a new miniseries that's on FX. It's created by Ryan Murphy, who's also famous for creating American Horror Story. But man, this is amazing because I have known about this whole feud between Bette Davis and Joan Crawford ever since I was young. So it's pretty much Hollywood legend, and it's great that we actually are now seeing it on film as to how the both of them clashed while they were making the movie, which is another classic, Whatever Happened to Baby Jane. So, and this is, and I have to say, this was well cast and was very well done. And I'm definitely going to be reviewing this because I'm a big Bette Davis fan. All About Eve is like my favorite movie. I have it on DVD. I watch it faithfully. Yeah, so this was great to actually see, like, what is it that that made these two women hate each other so much, because they literally hated each other, and they were dedicated to their hatred of one another, but knew when to play and knew when to fold. And that's one thing we saw with the whole episode. Now, I'm not going to try to go by every scene because so much happened, but I will try to draw out certain things that were, like, very key, and also certain things that were very funny. So I definitely will try to do it based on that. Well, the movie opens up, they're talking to Olivia de Havilland, and Catherine Zeta-Jones is playing her, and she's pretty much talking about, they're pretty much doing a documentary on the feud between Bette Davis and Joan Crawford. And Olivia de Havilland, who was friends with them, pretty much was kind of giving her take on what was going on. And especially how everything, you know, came to boil once they were on the same set of Whatever Happened to Baby Jane. Next, we actually see Joan Crawford, who is now aged, she's like in her, like, 40s now, or like mid-40s, or like early, or literally knocking on 50. She's at the Golden Globes, and I think Marilyn Monroe had won Best Actress for, I think, the movie Some Like It Hot, and she goes up to accept her award, and she is literally giving dirty looks at Marilyn Monroe, and even made the comment that just because you have tits doesn't mean you have to show the whole world, honey. She is like, and then on top of this, she is drinking her ass off. She is an alcoholic, and she always has her flask with her, and she was getting tore up that night. Well, we see later on that the famous columnist and pretty much, pretty much the shit stirrer of Hollywood, Hedda Hopper, who's actually played by Judy Davis. Hedda Hopper shows up at Joan's house and wants to ask her what is her real thoughts about Marilyn Monroe. At first, she's very evasive. She's not trying to talk about it, but then Hedda Hopper is a messy bitch, and she's extremely messy, because she tells her that I will talk about you falling into a drunken stupor at the Golden Globes, because we see that she was irate, she was out of control, she was kind of like going off on the man that she was with, her date, and she pretty much lets her know that, look, excuse me about that, but she said that I will talk about that if you don't give me the dish. In other words, spill the tea. Next thing you know, this damn Joan starts talking buku shit about Marilyn Monroe. Talking about how she's vulgar and she's trash, and, you know, why is it that they let sluts like that become movie stars? I mean, she goes in on Marilyn Monroe, and I'm like, hell. Talk about bitchiness and shade. They had it in They had it. They literally had it in a mouse, like big time. And we pretty much see that Joan has now worked in over 3 years. So she ends up going to this. She pretty much goes to like a production company where they let her know that, look, there are really no roles out here for someone your age, because most of all the hot roles were going to the young starlets or the young ingenues. You know, the it girls. You know, like Merlin, who at that time was in her prime. You know, she was pretty much, you know, in her 20s, where Joan is now like in her 40s, and you know, pretty much is considered like a has-been. So they let her know that, look, and Joan pretty much had the backing. One, she was married to the guy that was the head of Pepsi Cola. By this time, he had passed away, so she had a lot of money, and on top of this, she had some connections, and she used them. And she pretty much decided that, okay, I'm going to try to find my own project and try to do something, because she couldn't get a role. And they told her that, look, the only way you're going to get a role, you're going to have to create one. So that's that. So she took on that charge. And the first thing she did is she actually goes to meet with this director, Bob Aldrich. And he, just like Joan, is at his wit's end in his career. None of his movies are being screenlighted. He's not getting any breaks. He's practically just, you know, he's practically just struggling. You know, he's mortgaged he's pretty much got, you know, he's in a lot of debt. You know, he hasn't really had a big hit in a long time. So just like Joan, he's a has-been as well. But she wants him to actually direct this new project that she's coming up with. And we even saw the scene where she had her assistant going out finding all of these books, and the book that actually crossed her mind and actually got her attention was Whatever Happened to Baby Jane, which is about two sisters who are both has-beens in Hollywood. One was a child star, the other one was an adult actress who is now paralyzed, and yet they are literally destroying each other in their Hollywood home. So he pretty much is game with it, but then the question is, what kind of actress can play opposite Joan Crawford? Joan Crawford already had in mind that she wanted Bette Davis for this role. There was no other person. Bette Davis at this time, you know, after her major, you know, comeback in All About Eve, she's now, you know, working on Broadway in supporting roles where the younger actress is like the lead role and she's more of like the supporting character. And we can definitely see that Joan is so not for it and she's over it. But hey, it's the work, and she's a true actress because she started in the theater and she came to Hollywood. Whereas Joan, on the other hand, you know, she pretty much was a starlet. You know, she had beautiful looks and she pretty much had a lot of sex appeal, and that's what got her started in Hollywood. So they come from two opposite backgrounds, where one is more of a thespian and the other one is more, you know, was more of, you know, the cat's meow. So we actually see that Joan actually goes to Betty's play. She meets her and says that, look, you know you're not happy doing this bullshit. You know, I have an idea of a great project for us to do. You know, let's come together and we can kind of bury all the hate and stuff that we have for each other, because even back in the day, they never liked each other. But at this moment, and if anything, you know, Betty calls Joan by her real name, Lucille. She doesn't even call her Joan. She's like, yes, Lucille, what do you want? It's really hilarious. But she pretty much gives her the book, Whatever Happened to Baby Jane. Like, look, this is going to resurrect our careers. You need to get on this because this could change everything for you. And as a matter of fact, I'm giving you the title role. And she's like, oh, you're giving me the lead? And she's like, you can say that. I'm like, you shady bitch. Because we know the role of Jane is a demented, crazy role. So she's like, I'm giving you the ugly role and I'm going to be the pretty one. Kind of like thing. It was her way of saying that I'm better looking than you. And that was actually really hilarious. So pretty much she ends up reading the book, Bette Davis. She ends up calling Bob Aldrich and asks him, did you fuck Joan Crawford? I was like, damn, that is so messed up. And she asked again, did you fuck Joan Crawford? And he was like, no, what made give you that idea? And she said that, hell, she's fucked every director that she's worked with. I'm pretty sure that she fucked you also. But then he pretty much lets her know that, look, it's not like that, but I need Joan to get this picture made because Joan was the one who had the connections. I mean, as far as the production and getting things together, like, she got that all within her pocket, but she says that, look, I need Joan to do this picture, but I need you, Betty, to make this picture great. So again, we actually see that, Bob Aldrich, Joan Crawford, and Bette Davis are all in the same boat. They are all has-beens in Hollywood, and they're looking for a major comeback. And this is also true for Jack Warner, who's the head of Warner Brothers Studios. And he has a long history with both Joan Crawford and Bette Davis, and he hates Bette Davis because Bette Davis sued him back in the 1930s. I think it was in 1936. She had sued him. He ended up winning, but when she came back, she had more respect from him and from his counterparts, and she got better roles because that was initially why she sued, because she got tired of playing these, some of these like lackluster roles. She wanted something more meaty, something more edgy. Because if you know Bette Davis's work, she's one of those actresses that is not afraid to go to the edge. She's one of those type of actresses that is not afraid to get ugly. She's not afraid to cry messy. She's not afraid to fall apart. She will go as far as it needs to go to bring that character to life. And that's what made Bette Davis who she was. And Jack Warner was not on board with it as far as being a part of this, because he's like, you know what, I'm so over these two bitches. But then he even called Bette Davis a cunt. So he literally hated her ass. But Bob lets him know, like, look, your TV productions are not doing very well. Your production house is not really doing too good at this point. So what do you have to lose? Bring these women back. You need them. But then it just goes to show you how messy people are in Hollywood, because damn, Jack Warner says that, well, Betty being no longer in the spotlight and no longer having work, that's my revenge against her for what she did to me. And he pretty much said that, look, you need to pull this shit out your ass. We need this. I need this. And if anything, if you actually back this, I'll pay you first. That immediately changed Jack's mind. So now Jack is on board. Alright, next they actually show that Bette and Joan are at a press conference talking about them actually working together on whatever happened to Baby Jane. This is the talk of Hollywood because it is notorious that these two women hated each other. Everybody knows it. Everyone who's worked with them knows how much they couldn't stand each other. And next thing you know, while they're signing the contracts, in front of the press, to get this movie screenlit, we see that Joan looks mad as hell. And we don't actually know why she's pissed. But later on, she confronts Bob, and she lets him know that, I'm not going to be disrespected like this. She's getting $600 a week more than me. What kind of bullshit is that? If it wasn't for me, you wouldn't even be doing this movie. How the hell can you cheat me out of the profits and she gets most of the money? And he said that, look, and Bob lets her know that, look, it can be fixed. It's nothing. And she pretty much lets him know, like, look, I want $1,500 more than her. So I'm like, wow, crazy as hell. Next, they have another actress, Joan Blondell, who's actually played by Kathy Bates. and she pretty much tells the dish about the two of them in their relationships, about Joan being married to Alex Steele, who was the head of Pepsi Cola, pretty much, you know, after her career, pretty much after she had like the, you know, after winning the Oscar for Mildred Pierce, I think in 1945, you know, she still had some mainstream roles, but then, you know, her career started to take a dive, but then what saved her was that she married Alex Steele. And then Alex Steele, you know, ended up dying, but, you know, he left her. I think he did leave her some money, but she didn't have any real power, you know, within the company. And at one point, she really did. She really was like a co-director of Pepsi Cola when they were together. You know, because, you know, her brand and his brand kind of joined forces. But then after she died, her power within the company was damn near diminished. So here it is. She got all this money, but she no longer has any. She no longer, you know, has the type of power or prestige that she once had in her early career. Then she talks about Bette Davis, who at that time was actually married to Gary Merrill. Now, those who remember Gary Merrill, he's the one that played Bill Sampson in All About Eve. And pretty much their marriage was notorious because when they got married after doing that movie together, it was like they married it's like they married their characters rather than they married each other. He married Margot Channing, and she married Bill Sampson. So their situation was crazy. They even had a scene where he presents her with this black box, with this velvet box, and inside the box is divorce papers. And both of them are alcoholics. They both start going back and forth and, you know, calling each other names, you know, like, you has-been, like, you're a drunk, you know, you're impotent, and, you know, just start going back and forth. Next thing you know, they start having sex with each other. While he's asleep, she gets up in the middle of the night, signs the divorce papers. The next morning, he gets up, gets the divorce papers, gets on his clothes, and he leaves while she's sleeping in bed in the morning. So their marriage was very rocky. And the thing about it is that they really were great together in All About Eve, but as a couple, it was the complete opposite. They fought like cats and dogs. But they had an understanding that, hey, it doesn't work out, so, you know, what it is what it is. They even showed that she was actually doing a play where they were doing like you know, some theatrical production with each other. She ended up firing him because she said that he was boring. So it just really goes to show you that their marriage was just bad. And so they just pretty much see how bad things were. Next, they actually show that Joan is with her new beau. They're talking, and she pretty much talks about Bette Davis and says that, you know, I couldn't stand that bitch. You know, she tried to screw my boyfriend, and to retaliate, you know, it was like a director, I think. You know, I saw her, you know, trying to talk to this man, and she knew that me and him were dating, so she went after him anyway. So what I did is that in order to cut her out the picture, I married the bastard. So I'm like, now you know that has to be some serious hate for you to marry somebody just so that the next bitch can't get to him. That's crazy. But that was pretty much, you know, Bette and Joan. But then she also says that, look, and then the guy pretty much lets Joan know, like, you know what? I think the reason why you hate her so bad is because I think you really admire her. I think you like her. And she says that, yeah, I do admire her. I admire her talent, and I admire her gift. But I want her respect, and I'm going to give her respect, you know, whether it kills the both of us. I'm going to give her damn respect. So we see, okay. Now we actually at the set of Whatever Happened to Baby Jane. Joan is giving out gifts to the production crew, you know, trying to soften them up so they can kind of like, you know, give her better shots and things like that. We see that Bette comes in with her daughter, and you know, just immediately once, you know, Betty and Joan come face to face with each other, they already are throwing mad shade at each other. Like Joan, like Betty reminds Joan, like, sweetie, you ain't worked in 3 years, so there's a lot you have to learn. And then pretty much told her that, you know, won't you lose the shoulder pads and wear less makeup? You know, your character hasn't seen the sun in 20 years, you know, so, you know, show that. And next thing you know, we actually see that Betty and Bob are talking to each other. Joan is about to shoot her scene, her being in the wheelchair. She gets mad as hell because she sees the two of them talking, and she's like, you guys are talking about me, aren't you? And she's like, well, yeah. You know, I say that you're looking too glammed up for this role. She's like, I will not look ugly on film. I will not do that to satisfy you. And she's like, I'm trying to help you. You know, it's about the character, and you're trying to be Sex Fifth Avenue, and the character's not calling for that. You're paralyzed, for goodness sake. And they just went back and forth with that, and then Bob lets her know that, look, I gotta fucking keep it cool on this set. You know, I got her scenes to shoot, and, you know, I haven't even shot your scene yet, but we're gonna get to you. Next thing you know, when it comes down to Betty's scene, Betty is pretty much, you know, trying to decide her character. And this goes to show Bette Davis's genius as an actress, because she literally created the Jane Austen look all by herself. She saw that there was a wig that production had brought out to her. It was a wig that Joan Crawford had worn in one of her movies, like I would say like maybe 10 or so years ago, and it hasn't been worn since. She takes that wig, she pretty much puts on all of this makeup, you know, eyeshadow, heavy red lipstick, a lot of powder, and she gets like this little girl dress and literally walks on the set, and Bob literally stops dead in his tracks, and everyone else is kind of like stunned, and she stands there dressed as baby Jane Austen and says, hello, Daddy. And all Bob could do was just look at her, and he started clapping. And then it was thunderous applause, and Joan Crawford was pissed. She was mad, because I'm like, yeah, bitch, you tried to throw her shade by offering her the role of the demented sister, the deranged one, and she flipped it and made it magic. And that was Bette Davis, you know, in her true form. So next we actually see Hedda Hopper's messy ass decides to invite Bette and Joan to her house because she's trying to get some dish about their feud. Because it's notorious in Hollywood. Everyone knows that they don't like each other, but she's trying to get it she's trying to get it, you know, on tape so she can write a column about it. And she can kind of put it in the tabloids. Well, they both show up in black. They're thinking they're going to a dinner party. They soon find out they're the only guests there, so they immediately pick up, oh yeah, this bitch is trying to set us up. When it got to dinner, Hedda puts her tape recorder on the table and is ready to actually try to get them to dish out, you know, how the way they really feel about each other. She's literally trying to get their feud on camera. But the two of them had already peeped her bullshit, so they just start, you know, giving, you know, cheap sentiments to each other. You know, like, oh, yes, you're such a wonderful actress. Oh, yeah, I couldn't agree more. Yes, I definitely loved you in this, and now I'm so great to work with you. It's like, oh, I couldn't even be better. Yeah, your work is so amazing, and I'm honored to work with you, too. So they're doing all of this, and Hannah is getting mad. And then afterwards, they were like, so what we're having for dessert? She's like, we're skipping dessert. I'm already getting diabetes from this conversation. I'm like, Hedda Hopper is such a bitch, and she was really trying to get her scoop, but they were smarter than her and they outdid her ass. But and pretty much that's where it left off. But if I missed anything, put it down in the comments. But that's my review for the Feud, Bette and Joan. I will be reviewing this. I loved it. I'm a big fan of Bette Davis, and I'm also a fan of Joan Crawford as well. So this is great that we really get to see that notorious feud that we've always heard about. But yes, subscribe to my channel. Click that bell so you can get notifications every time I drop a video. Like this video, comment on this video, share this video, and I will be back with the next episode of Feud, Bette and Joan. So until then, everybody, take care.